Pam, we are live. Thank you for joining me on a Friday, 10:15. I hope we didn't inconvenience you, but thanks for taking the time.
Not at all. It's so honored to be here with you today.
So we only have a half hour. We keep them short because we want to be punchy. One, I'll just start by telling a little bit of the backstory. You and I met a little over a year ago at a dinner at Aileen Lee's house, and it was really a cool conversation where we talked about a lot of what was going on in Silicon Valley and trying to get more women and underrepresented minorities involved in tech and venture and boards. And I won't spill the beans on all the cool things we've been doing since then, but it's really been fun building the relationship. And now, GGV and Allraise have a stronger relationship, which I'm excited about. And but beyond that, maybe it'd just be helpful to give folks a little bit of your background and how you came to Allraise, and then we'll talk a little about what you're focused on.
Yeah, I'm a serial entrepreneur. It was a very fortuitous dinner, by the way, as all these networking opportunities are. Feel myself blessed to have been there and to have been like literally to your left. I think the left of your elbow.
That's right. That's right. Yeah.
So I was a serial entrepreneur, up the product marketing, product management route, into the CMO chair, into the sales chair, into the CEO chair, and was just looking for what my next opportunity was going to be and stepping back and looking at that next career chapter, if you will, and was very passionate about finding something that I was mission aligned with. And the Allraise mission of accelerating the success of female founders and funders just was squarely in my eyesight. And I felt like the work that I was doing on panels just wasn't enough. It was a drop in a very big ocean, and had known Aileen Lee for years. And so after 3 or 4 introductions came through, just decided this is where I want to put my time, my energy, and my effort going forward. There's no more important mission. And it's a meaty challenge. I like challenges. That's what startups are about, being disruptive. And it spoke to me from that perspective as well. So,
and from my vantage point, it kind of looked, like Aileen and the team had done an amazing job getting Allraise to where it was. And then it feels like in the last year, you guys have really hit the gas. It probably took some, I didn't see all the planning and everything else, but it really feels like you guys just have so many irons in the fire now and such a broad reach. Can you talk a little about what you guys have done over the last year and sort of what some of the key focus initiatives are right now?
Yeah. So like a great startup, we had a lot of pilots going on that were driving towards, trying to figure out, was this going to work? Was it MVP? So there's a lot of things on the side that nobody sees that that didn't make it to the MVP status. But now we are focused on a suite of opportunities. And so one thing that we do is really focus on creating our community of venture capitalists and iconic founders, and using that committee of committed people and community of committed people to reshape the culture. So there's all kinds of campaigns that we do that really leverage the community to say it's time for change and to drive what we want to see, which is that diversity, equity, and inclusion in tech isn't a bunch of check boxes. It is integral and synonymous with success. So something we launched recently was Visionary Voices. And Visionary Voices was really about making sure that the expertise of women was prominently figured in the media and in major conferences and on every panel. And so that's an example of a type of initiative we do there. At the same time, we're actually trying to seed a new flywheel where women and underrepresented individuals as well have a chance to participate in the funding, founding, and scaling of the next generation of startups. And so we look across, we have a variety of programs that really work hard at picking up a woman from the time she enters venture capital to the time we say she's on the Midas list, and then picking up a founder from the time she starts raising her first seed round to the time that she has her successful exit. We have a series of programs that we put to work that really rhyme with providing guidance, access, which is really what's prevented underserved groups from being able to participate fully in tech, and support around them. So we have a variety of different programs that do that and really look at seeding this new flywheel, diversifying the cap table, and generating wealth for a much broader segment of the industry.
And can I, by the way, we call this unscripted, so you and I didn't prep. Let me ask a dumb question. Why wasn't this happening naturally? Why, I'm glad it's happening now. And I'm, doing a lot with you and others to help drive this, but like, why do you think it wasn't happening naturally? Like it's illogical to me that the industry would say, oh yeah, we should just have, all white men on boards of directors or all white male venture capital firms. Like, and maybe the answer is like, it's just a moment in time in history where people realize, well, that's just stupid. It's like, people used to all smoke, and then we realize, well, that'll kill you. So I don't know. Do you have a thesis as to why, maybe it just takes an Aileen Lee to change the conversation and say, this is fucking stupid. We have to change the way we're doing things. And then you rally people to get on board, and maybe it's just natural, but do you have any theories as to why it hadn't happened previously?
A lot of it, I think, is just muscle memory and pattern recognition, and we're all human beings, and we get into ruts, and there's a lot of unconscious bias that happens. I mean, the issue of diversity, equity, inclusion has existed for hundreds of years. So it's not like we're talking about ingrained societal efforts or institutions, cultural institutions that we have to overcome. But then I do think that there are moments in time where we wake up, maybe because of data, which we like to leverage exclusively, maybe because of moment in time, maybe because our conscious shifts that we're provided a window. And our window for All Raise really did start around the Me Too movement in Silicon Valley. That was around the time that Susan Fowler was issuing her blog post, and we were talking about Justin Coldbeck. And there was a need just for an organizing principle. And I think, All Raise is a great example of any startup, which is an organic need driven out of personal, I have a need to fix this, and building taking a moment and turning it into a movement and building a community around it was really that organizing and rallying cry. And I think what all things just need an organizing principle, and that's what Aileen, one of the many things she did was organized us and organized women and men
and shined a light on it.
Yeah, shined a light on it.
I know in venture in particular, just relentlessly shining a light on the issue worked.
Absolutely.
It is working, right? We still have work to do, but it is working.
What doesn't get measured doesn't get fixed is what we like to say a lot. And so taking that light and shining it on there, and it's easy to just go about your day. But then when you hear that only 9% of women are partners in venture capital firms, which is what the number was when we started, and saying that's just a statistical improbability based on the population, then you start to say, oh, this is a problem and we have to fix it. And then the other thing that happened is we've got a lot of data now that just supports the economic value of diversity, equity, and inclusion. That's hard. It's hard to ignore. And we're starting to see the returns that are being generated from firms that have made the changes, from investments that have been diverted to more diverse founders. We're starting to see that economic value proposition come to light. And we've always been, this is the right thing to do. Clearly it's the right thing to do, but venture is a capital-driven business. It's about economics, and it's also the economically rational and prudent thing to do.
Right.
And so we focus on that as well. And I think, the industry follows the money. The money is in diversity, equity, and inclusion, and that's where we're going to keep moving ourselves.
I do think this year is particularly pivotal. I think the BLM movement, I think, at least I'm seeing boards where I've been encouraging founders to diversify the board for 5 years suddenly say, okay, it makes sense. Maybe some of that's just company maturity and they haven't really felt like they could do it previously. But I do think, and I talked to Webb Smith as part of my Unscripted series last week, and he's a Black founder who's running a really cool company called 2PM. And I asked him, are you seeing a difference? He said, I think I am. But we have to keep our foot on the gas. And so I think, can you just talk about, outside of All Raise, what are you seeing? Like, we have the new legislation in California. Can you talk about some of the things that are happening that maybe give folks hope that, you guys are one entity and you're doing a lot of great work, but like, we need more. What are some of the other things that you're seeing folks do that are helping to drive the flywheel and drive the tailwind on this trend?
Yeah. A lot of it is personal accountability. I think legislation is part and parcel of what we need to be doing. Advocacy work that needs to be done. We're a 501c3, so we don't get as involved in policy making. But I will personally attest to the fact that, yeah, the new passage of legislation has increased the inbound inquiry that we get from people who are saying, I need to diversify my board along gender and racial and ethnicity lines. Like, that's what I need to do, and I'm committed to it. But the change that I do see is that when I then say to them, why are you doing this? The people who are coming forward are doing it. Yes, there's an extrinsic motivator in the legislation, but there's an intrinsic value where they go, I get it. I'm a business that relies on creativity. And the data's shown repeatedly that more creativity happens when we have a diverse team. Or I've seen the benefits of having a diverse team at my management level. So now I wanted to bring it to my board level. So I do think that there's a lot of intrinsic motivation that is happening because there is more media coverage of it, because people are beginning to expand their networks and meet people who aren't like them. And they're learning what that experience is like. And so I do think the media pressure and the media coverage to raise our awareness means that you cannot, it's not as easy to just go back to business as usual. And that is part and parcel of it. I do think though that, like, to your point, we can't step back from this either. We still have a long way to go. So we are gathering momentum, but we can easily get stopped if we take our eye off the prize.
Is there another nonprofit that you look at as kind of a role model and say, like, look at what they did in this? And I'm just curious, off the top of your head, like, is there something you know, or a set of nonprofits that maybe you look at and say, I look at what they did in this industry or this category and say, like, all right, that's our aspirational target?
We admire a lot of the work that Time's Up has done and partner with Time's Up because they are really keeping the focus, and they have a lot of initiatives that we look at. They do have a legislative or policy initiative, but they also have their data institute. And we think that that is really important, that we have to continue to be thoughtful and understand the obstacles that we're all facing and are all holding us back, and how to overcome that, and to showcase the value of overcoming that. And so if we don't understand what the problem is, we can't just fix it, right? We're just going to be throwing spaghetti at the wall. So we really admire the way that they have done that. And also just the way that they have, you know, organized a community. They've created a movement. And that organizing principle of how do we get many voices. This isn't about Always doing its work. It's about each of us every day showing up and doing the work. And so I think it's really impressive how they have done a series of outreach to their community and activated that community and motivated that community and given a shared voice to that community. That's one that we really spend a lot of time talking about.
And what, if I'm a female or underrepresented minority and I want to get involved in Always, what can I do? What should I do? You know, I feel like, you know, you guys have like very heightened awareness with me and most of my peers, but I, you know, get out into the community and I talk to people that have still never heard of Always. So
we're still young, right? We're still young. Come to our website, follow us on Twitter, follow us on social. That's where you're going to hear about everything that's happening. We try to intentionally expand our networks all the time. But there's absolutely people we don't know and we still want to discover and we want to help and support. So do go to our website. There's ways to identify like who your path is. Are you an investor? Delve into our investor site. If you're a founder, delve into our founder site. If you're an ally and you just want to know, like, what are some of the things that I can do that can help lend my voice to this, please do that.
That was my next question is, you know, so that's for women who want to get involved, go to the website, follow you on Twitter, try to engage, attend some of the events. What about for men who want to be involved? And I think, you know, a lot of, at least historically, I think some men avoided getting involved in some of these efforts because they just didn't quite know how to handle it or process it or whatever. But I think that's changed. And I'm finding a lot more people are open to that email or that ask. But what are some good ways for men to get involved and help move this ball forward?
Yeah, we get asked all the time, how can I help? And it's increasingly a genuine, not a disingenuous, like pops up, like, how are you today? Right. It's not that, but it's very genuine. How can I help? And so again, you can go to any one of those areas of our website and find ways that you can help and that you can contribute. One of the founding principles of All Raise was that there was an element of women for women, but we really did embrace the concept of diversity, which is it's the diversity of perspectives around the table that matters. And so men are an important component of creating space at the table and helping us to change the narrative and the dynamics. And so there's all kinds of ways that you can volunteer your time and effort. We call you champions, whether you're a founder champion or a venture capital champion. There's daily things that you can do as well, which we often tell people, which is, be thoughtful, take that meeting, not out of charity, but take that meeting because you have to be the change that you want to see. So how you have an ability, you're an investor, and you don't invest in that category, but take that meeting and then make the introductions to other people. If you're an investor, find 5 other female investors who you can share your deal flow with and have interaction with and create a business flow with. If you're in a meeting, be aware of shining the woman in the meeting. If you're on a panel and the question of diversity comes up, or a question like, hey, how do you balance being a parent and somebody who's working? That's a question that should not be a question for women. That should be a question for the men. And so be willing to take that spot. On Visionary Voices, we also say, refuse to be on the all male panel. Like, just, you have power.
Yeah. Ed Zimmerman really, do you know Ed? He's in New York. He was one of the first that really just took a super active stance on that. And a lot of us have followed his lead. And I think it's been great. He literally, we were putting on our conference, one of our e-commerce conferences, this is probably 4 or 5 years ago. And he was going to we were hosting it at their offices in New York, Lowenstein Sandler. And Ed got the agenda and said, nope. And one of the women on our team was organizing the conference. And she said, what's wrong with the agenda? He said, I need it to be 50-50. And she said, well, it's kind of set in stone and the conference is next week. And he was like, I don't care. You're not hosting it at our facility unless it's 50-50. And so I think like taking that dogmatic, unnatural, it works.
It works. It absolutely works. It's using your power and influence in a way to create space at the table and to change the dynamics. So that's one less conference where there's an all male panel. And you're featuring voices. And that, to me, the greatest myth that we have to blow up is that there's a pipeline problem. You just don't know them. If you think there's a pipeline problem, it's because your network has to be expanded to know phenomenal women. And you and I talk about this all the time, about like all the phenomenal women that All Raise is capable of introducing people to, all this talent that has not been tapped fully, and making that space at the table. And Visionary Voices was our effort to make that easier for people. There's absolutely no excuse anymore to not be inviting somebody to a conference, because there's a database of 1,000 expert qualified women, and it's not gated, and you don't have to pay anything. You can go tap that network of
That's great.
Amazing speakers.
And that's on the All Raise website?
That's on the All Raise website, exactly.
And those are folks that have raised their hand and said, yeah, I'd love to participate. And
raised their hand, said, I'd love to participate. We've done some vetting of them, some categorizing of them, so you can search for what you're looking for, what type of expertise you're looking for. And these are women who have published blogs, or have speaking capability, or a resume, and even people who are up and coming. I will say, like, we get asked all the time, like, oh, is there a speaking fee? And I was like, some of them have speaking fees because they're really talented women, and just because they're women doesn't mean it's free, right? So we do not gate. There are some women who have a speaking fee, and there are, just like men, and there are women who won't charge.
It's amazing.
Well. But like
just like men.
Just like men. I mean, we get asked that all the time. Like, what? Like, do I have to pay? And I was like, if she's charging you, then you have to pay to get her talent.
Yeah. And so what do you see? Let's kind of look out into next year. This was such a crazy year with the pandemic, and but like, what do you see for All Raise next year? What do you see happening in tech and venture and equality? And like, give us Give me the like reasons for optimism, and then give me the things that you feel are like the hardest problems we still need to tackle. And hopefully I will inspire some folks to want to tackle them.
My optimism comes kind of from the pandemic itself, which is I've been around the Valley long enough to see these kind of boom bust cycles,
Yeah,
if
you and
you
me
will.
both.
And so this is the third one that I'm seeing. And from this downturn will come the next generation of breakthrough companies. And so my optimism is that we have a chance right here and right now to do things differently,
Yeah.
to invest in a more diverse founder base, to deploy more capital to female founders and underrepresented founders, to make hires in our venture firms that bring those diverse networks to the table, because that's what they do, is they bring their connections to the table. So I'm really enthusiastic that we have a chance and that we can, as board members, as investors, make sure that we are putting support positions in place and proactively supporting, not just telling the CEOs that they should do this, to build diversity, equity, and inclusion into their company from the ground up. Because once you hit 6 or 8 employees, it becomes increasingly hard to put that into the fabric of the organization. So I think we have a chance to just
so true. It's so true. We do a lot of DE&I work inside of our firm with our portfolio companies. And one of the things, I was talking to one of the women who runs that for us, and she actually ran it at Facebook. And I said, well, you ran this at Facebook. Why isn't Facebook more diverse and inclusive at the top? And she said, you know what? If you don't do it when the company is early, it's really hard to change later on. It doesn't mean you can't, but like once you get over 1,000 employees, then it becomes an initiative. Yep. She said, if you build it in early and you have a diverse workforce early, then people just hire a diverse workforce and you end up with a diverse workforce. It's not some initiative that has to be tackled. And so it was a very insightful comment from somebody who ran this function at one of the most successful companies on the planet. And she just said, look, that's why I'm so passionate about getting it into companies early, because if we can help a company build that programmatically sub 100 employees, it won't be something you have to tackle later on.
It's just how you operate. It'll just be the reflex motion. I'm all into muscle memory. It'll be in the muscle memory of your organization to do it that way. And it's the difference between turning a rowboat and turning a ship, right? Like if you have to turn a tanker, that's a harder thing to do. But if you get the rowboat, it's very easy to be nimble. And so that's what gives me optimism. DEI, there's a lot of work that has to be done in any startup, but there's also timing. And so I think DEI, the wind is in everybody's sails. This is a moment and a movement. This is not going away. All Raise was started. That was a big question we used to get. Is this a moment or a movement? This is a movement. And I think social justice is following right in the heels. And so we have a lot of, the timing is right. And those are the two things that give me tremendous optimism. And then the people around the table who are intrinsically motivated by this and see the value proposition of it. Those all give me hope. The things that I'm concerned about is, hey, when we're all at risk and times are uncertain, we become more risk averse. We fall back to pattern recognition. We fall back to that muscle memory. And I'm concerned, that's my biggest concern, is that with the best of intentions, if we just say, well, I need to invest in somebody who's been a successful entrepreneur before, that isn't going to look like a white woman, or isn't going to look like a Black or Latinx woman. It's not going to look like an underrepresented man either. So I worry the most about that. And we were holding steady for the first half of the year, and then PitchBook came out with their Q3 report that said the amount of funding going to female founders has dipped. And so, and there's no place else to look but within ourselves.
By the way, I have a thought on that. I think funding for new companies dipped. So to your point you just made about the reasons for optimism, my hope is that in Q4 and Q1 of next year, as we see new companies get created and launched, that will change. That ratio will change. I think people tensed up and put more capital into existing companies than they did into new. So my hope is that Q3, Q4, Q1, we're going to see an influx of new capital as new companies get created we're not post-pandemic, but call it March and April.
Right.
So my hope is that those numbers change in Q4 and Q1, and that it was just an anomaly based on people funding, things that they knew and were comfortable because they were panicked. right? When you hit a crisis, people panic. So
People panic.
I'm optimistic. The other reason I'm optimistic, to your point, is we've had 40% more new business applications in the country this year than last year. At this same point in time, we're 40% ahead. So I think as much as it sucks to have had people, well, the whole thing sucks. Let's just start there. But like lose their jobs, I think it has driven some people who otherwise were comfortable in a job to start a new company. And I'm super hopeful that that's a more diverse population, and the capital flows into that more diverse population. And when we look back in Q1, Q2, Q3 of next year, we're like, oh my gosh, look at all these amazing companies that got started in Q3 and Q4. And were started by this massively diverse population of people, not just people who, came out of Stanford and MIT.
Right. And I live in a hope as well. And my team will tell you that I also say hope is not a strategy. Right? Like I always say that. And so I just, my call out to the community is always, this is your responsibility. If not you, then who? And so I always say you have to stay focused on this. What are you doing intentionally to expand your network and give yourself access to these amazing entrepreneurs who you don't know and aren't naturally going to, if you just sit in your chair, aren't naturally going to find you? So how do you purposely broaden your network?
Yeah.
How do you purposely broaden your network? Not only so that these founders present to you, but when they present, that you have the network to help you understand truly what that opportunity is. Because a lot of times, like our orientation is like, I don't understand that. And therefore it feels micro. But when you actually delve into, cultural differences for like the Latina community or the Black
this is
community,
one of Webb's points.
Yeah,
right?
You actually find it's huge.
Black purchasing power, Latin purchasing power, like these are completely untapped demographics from the venture capital community. And Webb made this point, like, I'll give you a great example. One of our best investments is an e-commerce business called Wish. My partner Hans is on the board. They sell to lower end consumers, right? Think of like Kohl's, Dollar Store, yep. Dollar General. That's kind of their customer. Well, most VCs don't understand that customer.
No, it's not.
And Hans saw that in 2014 and spotted it. And today it's a $10 billion company. We need that kind of thing to happen around some of these underrepresented demographics where people take an interest in understanding things they don't understand and fund them.
Yes, absolutely. But you have to have the network to help you understand what you're looking at, as opposed to, in female circles, it was often like, I'm going to go home and I'm going to ask my wife if she would use this, right? That was Kat Lake's challenge, was right. The wife of a venture capitalist may or may not have been her target demographic. They needed to talk to who her target demographic is. So trying to understand, having the network to go understand what the numbers are and what the opportunity is as important as having the network in order to pull those opportunities in. So that's my call to the industry is, yes, I agree. There is a ton of opportunity out there, but make sure that you're armed to see what that opportunity is, because you don't want the next big Amazon, Google, Facebook is probably not going to be founded by an all-white male team.
Right. And they're getting started right now.
And so you want to have access as a venture capital, you want to have access to that pool. So what are you doing? How are you being thoughtful about creating that access to that pool?
Yeah. So we've got 2 minutes left. What, I guess, for folks, we've got some folks who tuned in live, and then we'll have a bunch of folks that watch it on YouTube. Like specific, most impactful things you've seen people do over the last 6 months with respect to All Raise. Like I'm tuning in, I don't know a ton about All Raise. I've just heard you talk about it. I'm going to here's the one thing I can do that will be most impactful.
Yep. If you're an investor, the most impactful thing that you can do is what I was just talking about, which is expand your network. And I say expand your network.
And fund,
right? Expand your network and actually write the checks.
Yeah.
If not
I'd like to say hire or wire.
Yep, hire or wire. Those are the two things, the two most impactful things that you can do if you're a venture capitalist. If you're a founder, come to us and we will help plug you in.
Okay.
That's what we see.
Okay, that's an offer that's out there.
That's an offer that's out there. If you're a founder, come to us, come to our website, sign up for things. We will engage with you. We will help you. We will make introductions. We will give you guidance. We will give you tips.
That's awesome.
That will help you on your journey. And that's probably the most impactful thing you can do is come to us. Like, we don't always know how to outreach to you.
Right.
Proactively inbound. And if you're somebody who knows a founder, refer them to us. Like, we're here to support.
Yeah. In fact, I just did that with you with a Black female VC that I was super blown away, impressed with, sent her to you. You're now working with her collaboratively. Like, I think that making that introduction, making that connection, it's just going to open doors.
We just, we want to fire on all cylinders. We honestly, we always talk about ourselves as the pit crew. We are a super node connector for people. So
I love that.
We're going to take fabulous entrepreneurs and fabulous investors, and we're just going to be some extra rocket fuel that helps them get them to where they were going to go, but we're going to get them there faster, and we're going to make that path easier for them. So that's my big call. And hey, if you're sitting around there thinking, I am listening to this, but I'm just a manager in a company, there's still things that you can be doing every day along creating an inclusive environment. Who is your next hire?
Mm-hmm.
Who is your next hire? Who's the next team member that you're going to? What is the next meeting that you're going to go into where you are going to shine a woman or the underrepresented individual in the room? There's action all of us can be taking. Nobody should be sitting on the sidelines anymore. Neutrality is a position, and it's not a position you want to be in. You want to be leaning in and supporting the change that we all need to see.
Love that. I love that. Okay. Well, I am a big supporter. GGV Capital is a big supporter.
Thank you for all your support. Yes.
I just think you guys have started a movement, and I've seen the results. I've seen the impact. We're seeing the impact. I know you're going to talk more about that over the next few months, but I'm seeing it. And so that to me is what I get excited about. It's like, guys, if you do this and it works, it has an impact. Let's do more of that. Let's scale that. Let's recruit other people to be part of that. I love what you guys are doing, and I'm thankful you're doing it. I'm glad we met a year ago.
Me too.
It's been fun working together, and I'm really pumped for what All Raise is going to do over the next few years. I think it's going to be awesome. So
I'm excited to have you at our table and invite everybody else to come to our table. It is a movement, and we need all the voices that we can get to help us continue to accelerate the traction and not do the backslide. So thank you for you and the entire GGV team's support.
Awesome. Thanks for taking the time, Pam.
Thanks so much.
Take care.
Bye.